Before you run off and spend all your time and money on an idea, ask yourself if there's demand and interest. Try to test and tweak along the way. You're going to be amazed at what can happen whenever you actually take this scientific approach instead of just... Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. In this episode, I want to dive a little bit into my past. You may recall a story that I shared earlier in my podcast. If you've been a long-time listener, I got too caught up watching Shark Tank and wanting to be an inventor and achieve my life of riches and success through a product that I sold online or QVC. I could see like Lori investing in this and having it on QVC, or Mark Cuban being like, yeah, this would be perfect for, the Mavericks or whatever teams that he's invested in. And a friend and I actually got caught up spending about $35,000 or $40,000 each trying to patent and manufacture an invention idea. It kind of moved fast, right? We had a 3D printer. We designed this really cool thing. It worked. The 3D printed version seemed to be doing all the things we wanted it to do, but we didn't realize that to get injection molds made, that's a lot more difficult and precise than just 3D printing something into existence. And long story short, we were burning a lot of money. We ended up with faulty injection molds. The molds that we ordered to create these mass produce these products, they're pretty much like a bottle shape. The molds were kind of faulty. They were not creating the prototypes that we desired, and there were some issues with it. And we literally put that on the shelf for the time being because it was kind of bleeding us dry. And the thing is, I had also quit my job. I had no real income and I was spending this money. So I think I had like 60,000 in savings, and I just blew through, more than half very quickly within months. And hindsight's 2020. There's a lot that I would have done differently. Knowing what I know now, and obviously going through what we had gone through, I honestly probably would not have pursued that idea just because I didn't realize how challenging it is to bring a product to life, but also how cash intensive it is. And also just inventory and all those things. And just me being supply chain background and being very lean. I love the idea of like low overhead, low costs, create to fulfill, like, create space. You can publish a book and they won't print any copies off. I don't have to have a warehouse full of books. If you place an order on Amazon, the Kindle publishing store or CreateSpace, I forget, they've changed their name since I created some book a long time ago that I tried to sell on Amazon. Don't go look for it. I don't think it's very good. It's like a little pamphlet, and I need to create a new book that's real. But what I'm saying here is that make to order products exist like that. You can have a t-shirt design and they don't print out any t-shirts until you place the order or somebody places the order, and they print the shirt, ship it, and yeah, maybe it's a little higher cost per unit, but you're not having to sit on inventory and all these things. So I try to live my life in a way where I don't have any regrets. I take the lesson, I move on. I've mentioned before that money to me, you can always just go make more of it. I need to think longer term, but I think I am working on the right things, and I have the ability to generate the income now where if I lose a little bit of money here and there, it's just a step on the path, and all you need is one home run. That's something that Mark Cuban has said. You just need to be right once. And knowing that, I am continuing to swing for the fences, and I know that it's just going to take one home run and you're kind of set for life in a way, right? So if I had to do it again, I would have probably gotten into real estate sooner, learned more. I could have invested in a couple of properties, but of course, could have, would have, should have. I don't want to talk about the past that much because I'm looking at what are we doing now? Where are we at now? How do we move forward? So there's also lessons that we can draw from every mistake, every failed partnership, and so on. But what is my point here is to test everything. See if there's a demand. Try to pre-sell a product or a course before you spend the time and effort creating something that people may not even want. We hadn't really done that. We kind of did. It was a chicken and the egg thing because it was kind of hard to test demand when you don't have the actual product. We had to invest in the tooling to create the products, but based on the prototypes, we had some interest from supplement stores that were interested in pairing up our product with supplements that they offered. If I had to point blame on anyone, I try to take ownership of everything, but honestly, the mold manufacturers kind of sold us and said, hey, yeah, we can definitely design this. You can get this thing done. And by the time we got the prototypes and they weren't working, it was kind of like too late. We had already paid for it. The molds had shipped over from China. We didn't have any final product we could sell because the products were faulty. But I digress. And ultimately, everything is your fault. So taking ownership of that, it's ultimately my fault that this didn't work out. I accept that. And because I accept that, I have the power to change that or to take action. When you point, this is just a side lesson here. This could be another podcast episode. When you point the finger, point blame at other people, you remove the power from yourself to actually change that. But when you take ownership of everything, you take the power over to make the change in your life that you want. And so while I'm all for being optimistic, taking action and making shit happen, I realize that a lot of times entrepreneurs get very stubborn. They literally do not know when to quit, and they will continue going down a path that is probably the wrong path just because there's no definition on the best time to quit, when to pivot, when to try something new. And we all love the story. We hear this on Shark Tank too. Like, I mortgaged my house, I did this, I sold all this stuff, I have nothing left, I'm living out of my car for the last 5 years, and then the product hits and they become successful. We love that story of someone getting rejected 100 times and being told yes once, and that one is all that it takes. But at the same time, I feel like it's a fine line of heading down the wrong path because we're stubborn and persistent, and maybe revisiting what are we spending our time and effort on, and how do we get the most bang for our buck in terms of our energy. And I did mention earlier that Mark Cuban is attributed for saying you only have to be right once. And so I think that's kind of the shiny light at the end of the tunnel for most of us entrepreneurs. We are hammering our heads against the wall over and over, trying to get to that Valhalla, that destination we think we want to go, like the light at the end of the tunnel, right? But how do we know if the idea is not working? Is it the execution? Are we working hard but not smart? Are we working smart but we're not working hard enough? These are the questions that entrepreneurs start to think of as things get difficult and as they are not seeing the results that they want. So this is actually why now I try my best to test everything, whether it's an opt-in offer, my email headlines, and even just demand for something I want to put together. I am doing my best to gauge interest before I go run off and spend 3 months of building a website and a funnel and an email list. Is there demand? Does anyone want this thing that I think is a good idea that I want to create? And I don't want to play any more guessing games. I don't want to bet the farm, right? I'm trying to limit my downside and maximize my upside. I am willing to take risks, but not blind risks like I kind of did with the invention idea a couple of years ago. So the downside with this method of testing everything is that maybe you create less, like maybe I'm going to create less stuff. I'm not going to have as many ideas. I'm not going to try to invent as many things. But the upside is that I only spend time and energy creating the things that people have actually raised their hand for. I'm not spending time or effort on things that people don't want. And most recently, I emailed my list and I posted on my stories just to see if there'd be any interest from real estate agents who in my audience or who follow me to join a paid coaching or mastermind group. By the way, if you are a real estate agent and you are listening and you're interested, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Shameless plug, I know, _. I'll see you there. But my plan is to host an initial Zoom call, kind of figure out what everyone's needs and expectations are, talk about my pricing versus what their expectations are, and just make sure that we're kind of in alignment, because I know that's going to be a battle between how much is too expensive, how much is too cheap, how much value am I going to provide. A lot of those things are kind of question marks. And I just want to make sure that people are willing to invest time and money into themselves, into their own education. And it also has to make sense for me to spend hours of my time on as well on a monthly basis. If the price point's too low and it's not really making any money for me for the knowledge that I've acquired and am teaching, I'm not going to be very incentivized to continue to do this because I'm trying to run a business, not necessarily a charity. And for them, they want to make sure they're not investing too much for where they're at currently, while also making sure they get a return on their investment or an ROI. And I do plan on starting to maybe create another audience, another YouTube channel, another niche down brand really of some sort to teach people. But at the same time, there's no harm in making an ask to my current audience. Not all of you are in real estate, and I understand that this may not make sense. You're like, well, I'm not looking for real estate coaching because I'm not in real estate. Perfect. This isn't going to be for you in that case, but for those who are, you're welcome to reach out. And this is just a test. Before I go and run off and spend time, effort, energy, resources, money, blood, sweat, and tears, possibly, you never know, creating this thing. If I have a handful of people, 5, 6, 7 people, maybe even 10, who are willing to invest on a monthly basis in coaching with me, then heck yeah, I don't even need a sales funnel, a website, an email list. Just from a couple of texts, a couple of messages alone, I'm able to raise that interest and get something together. And the personal example here that I want to share, just kind of how I can see it's possible, because obviously I went through this myself. I personally hired a coach this year and I didn't look at any emails from this person. I didn't go through a funnel. I didn't read a sales page. It was based on our relationship, some trust, some mutual connections that have had success coaching with this individual who have renewed their coaching term for this year with him again. And for that reason, I saw people having success in the group, speaking highly of him, and I ended up signing up at $950 a month for the year 2022. And of course, I had no idea what kind of ROI am I going to get? What kind of results am I going to get? How do I know I'm going to make my money back? That's the thing. I don't. I have belief in myself, in the coach, in the other business owners in my group. And I did take a leap of faith. I also believe in my own ability, as I mentioned before, to help people to generate income for myself. And that's why I took that leap of faith. Do I know the ROI, the exact dollar value? Hell no, I don't know it. Do I believe in myself and in the power of learning from a proven mentor? Absolutely. And so that is why I'm testing, seeing if there's interest. I'm going to try things out. I'm willing to give a refund back to people who sign up, who don't find the value and they want to bounce after a month or two. Totally cool, right? For those who are finding the value, love the community that I create, they know, like, and trust me from just absorbing my content for so many years, or just seeing the consistency, right? Even though I posted that I'm quitting thing, like, I'm still posting podcast episodes after that, right? And so the point here is to make offers and to test whatever it is that you're working on. See if there's interest before you go down that rabbit hole of trying to create some idea that you thought of 2 weeks ago and spending way too much time and money. The cool part that I wanted to share is that I just spontaneously did this yesterday. I kind of had that like eureka moment of I could do paid group coaching. I could teach real estate agents. I have the knowledge in this area. And the coolest part is that I had 8 or 9 people message me, I'm interested, or tell me more, or hey, can you tell me about that mastermind or coaching? And I didn't have to have an upsell, website, funnel, anything. That's just the trust from my page, from mutual connections, from the relationships I've developed in different groups that I'm in, both paid and free. And so you can do this too. Before you run off and spend all your time and money on an idea, ask yourself if there's demand and interest. Try to test and tweak along the way. You're going to be amazed at what can happen whenever you actually take this scientific approach instead of just playing the guessing game that I did with that first invention product. So with everything you do, test, split testing, copywriting. I'm reading all these different books about headlines and writing copy that sells and conversions and really just speaking to the emotional part of people. So I'm improving in all areas, and I know you are as well. It just depends on what it is that you need to improve, what it is that you want to launch, and take that scientific approach. So that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for your time. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments below in YouTube. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.